Hey everybody, I'm Andy Vineberg, and welcome to episode 46 of the David Uosikkinen in the Pocket podcast here on Wildfire Radio, Philly Rock Radio. Find all our episodes at in-the-pocket.simplecast.com. And this one's a biggie, Dave.
It's a year.
It's because a year ago tomorrow,
Yeah.
we kicked this whole crazy, wild podcast thing off. And here we are a year later, 46 episodes, and it's still going great, man. Congratulations, 1 year, happy anniversary.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, it's been fun. And I was on the way in. I had a conversation with Charlie Ingwe, and I told him
Our very first guest.
He
was at episode 2, our very first guest.
I didn't realize that. If I would have known, well, he lives, he's hours away from here. But knowing Charlie, he would have gotten in the car and driven up. But I didn't even think about that.
We started with a bang. When you got
the studio,
right? The other studio, a couple miles away here. We're still in. I think both are in West Deptford, New Jersey. But I know we're in West Deptford now here at the beautiful Wildfire Studios. Our producer Taylor
on board,
and Marcus Darpino who helped us kick off. It is.
Yeah, it's fun. It was. English,
this is not a goodbye, folks. This is just a celebration of the first year. Hey, before we, this week we're going to look back, Dave and I, at some of the highlights of the past year. And but before we do that, I do want to mention our sponsors. And these people have been with us almost from the beginning. They joined us in December and have remained as a sponsor ever since. It's the great people at Behavioral Pediatrics and ABA Therapy Associates in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. Brenda Doherty, great friend of the show. She runs the clinic. They work with autistic children, teens, young adults, as well as people with other behavioral diagnoses. If you need help, if this affects your family, give them a call. They're in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, 267-663-7141. Thanks for your continued support. This week, we also want to welcome a brand new sponsor to the show. This is exciting, Dave, because I know you have a very personal relationship.
Peace.
It's gotpeace.com. Trudy Handelman. Dave, why don't you tell folks
Trudy's
about
great.
what they do there?
Yeah, well, it's a company that promotes peace, which we need more of. And so if you were interested in checking out what they do, go to gotpeace.com. And, to do that, they have merch, and it's very inexpensive, very cool. Like these cool necklaces that I dig. Trudy's given me a couple of those. I really like them. And I never really wear any jewelry other than my wedding band, but I wear one of those necklaces, which I don't have one today, which I should have. Sorry, Trudy. And they promote peace through their merge and other associations with companies. And they also have provided an artistic funding component because of her involvement, the late great Glenn Goss. She was involved with Gigi Nadine. Matter of fact, executive producer on that record. And we'll talk more about Glenn, but GotPeace.com is just a wonderful company, and they've been great coming on board to sponsor us. And we have an event, which I guess we'll talk about at the end of the podcast, on October 24th to talk about Glenn, and they'll be greatly involved in that, obviously. So thank you, GotPeace.com, for sponsoring the podcast.
Thank you very much.
GotPeace.com, I guess that you just...
Yeah, go on their website, GotPeace.com, and they've got all kinds of cool hats and jewelry and T-shirts, and like you said, anything we can do to promote peace in this day and age, that's a good thing. So thanks, Trudy, for joining on board. All right, so I should let the listeners know how, since we're celebrating the last year, we should let people know how this whole thing started.
Yeah.
And basically, I'd been laid off.
You're the instigator.
So you blame me, folks. I'd been laid off after 30 years of working in newspapers at the Bucks County Courier-Times, Burlington County Times, Doylestown Intelligencer.
And we never really talked about enough of your career, because you've done such great work helping there's been a legacy of great writers from John Fisher and I knew John, that wrote great articles on local bands, local artists. Helped me when I was really young, growing up in Levittown. And then you carried on the tradition.
Whenever people compare me in any way to John Fisher, I took it as it was humbling and a huge honor, because no one did more for local music than John. So I was proud to kind of keep that legacy going.
He's the first guy I knew with a voicemail. I called him up. I think I was 16 years old. He had a voicemail tape recorder, and I never heard one before. talking like I was 16 years old. I forget what year it was, but I remember calling it, and I left a 10-minute message on his voicemail singing songs.
Yeah, John was the best. He walked into a room. He had a presence about him too.
Well, wasn't he 6'6"?
Big guy.
Big guy. I spoke real low, didn't he? I think I liked the way you hit the drums.
Right, and he would know. He would tell bands. Like, he was an expert in like harmony singing. Like he would be able to tell people to work on your backing vocals, and he was a great friend to all the local bands of Bucks County.
A great guy.
Anyway, so I was looking for something to do. Kind of still am, but. I said, well, how can I stay involved in the local music scene? And I thought, well, podcast. Everybody's got a podcast. Everybody and their brother has a podcast. So why don't I called up Wildfire because my friend Big Daddy Graham, best wishes.
I saw him last week, by the way.
Is he doing better?
Yeah, he looked good. I saw him Sunday. He looked great.
Well, anyway, so I had done a couple guest appearances on Big Daddy's show where he would look at his classic rock throwdown where he would do lists of it was great. It was a good show.
He's a good drummer.
Big Daddy, he's a man of many talents. Yeah. Many talents. I once did an article, 25 things you didn't know about Big Daddy Graham. I'll have to dig it up sometime. But anyway, so Big Daddy suggested, well, why don't you call Wildfire? So I call Wildfire, and they start talking to me about, welcome aboard, come on, join to do a show. But halfway through, I'm thinking, okay, well, my name alone isn't going to sell a show, and the people I write about maybe, but not me alone. So who can I get as a co-host that'll attract people? And as I'm having this conversation with Marcus, you're the first name that pops into my mind because you know everybody. You're a great guy. So I email you that night, and like 5 minutes later, yes, I'm on board. It took you like 30 seconds to say, I want to do it.
I was, at the time, I was watching the series on Mark Maron.
Okay.
And
he would inspire anybody to want to do something, right?
And I loved his program, and I loved his podcast, and I was listening to them religiously. So I thought, it'd be cool to do one. And you know what? And it has been ever since, because I wasn't aware how many. You interviewed a lot of guys over your career writing, Andy. So they can see him, and you do such great research on everybody, but you knew their history, everything. So it was very easy. It's been easy doing it with
It's just you and I sitting around talking music, and we've been so lucky because we've had so many great guests sitting in that chair right there, and then others that have called, that are out of the area that can't be here with us, so they've called in on the phone. And we mentioned our very first guest was Charlie Inglis. And for a first guest, how can you do any better if we're doing a show about the Philadelphia music scene? How can you do much better? And Philadelphia music history. How can you do much better than Charlie Inglis, who is amazing to me because I'm telling you, he sounds better now, or not better because it's hard to sound better than he did, but he sounds just as good. I mean, the guy's, I don't know how old he is, but
he's older than me, and he's kicking ass, man. It's amazing to see him.
Every time he sings, and he's still got the stage presence and the charisma. And and that's, I think, one of the reasons why In the Pocket the band works so well. You got a guy like Charlie, a veteran, kind of like the one that everybody looks up to, and everybody just kind of wants to up their game to be able to bring it as well as Charlie.
He cares so much too. It's never like his A game is always just a natural thing for him. His brother Richie was the same way. He was like the Godfather, Rich. What do you think? He's just. It was just amazing. We had the opportunity to play with both those guys, Rich and Charlie.
Yeah.
So rest in peace.
All right, so we're looking back at the show, the first year of the David Uosikkinen In the Pocket, and it was episode 5. I got my research here, Dave. It was episode 5 that we had our first live music performance in the studio with us, and it was actually our first show right here in this new studio. And it was Steve Butler. And when we first started, we figured, okay, we'll play some music, recorded music. We'll talk to our guests. I don't know that we had in mind that we would actually be an avenue for people to perform live.
But we never talked about it.
Right, but
this is the first time I've ever put up the cat. We never even talked about videotaping it either.
Year 2, we're starting to
we're something new.
Maybe you're watching us right now on Dave's YouTube channel. If you are, hey everybody. So Steve Butler, episode 5, and he did a little medley. We were talking about Tom Petty because that episode was a year since Tom Petty had passed away. Talk about one of the many legends we've lost in the last few years. So Steve brings his guitar. I don't know if he just did it on his own or if we suggested he bring his guitar. Yeah. But Steve brought a guitar and he did a little medley. He played a little snippet of a Tom Petty song, and then he did 2 Smash Palace songs. Right. And it was like, so this was historic because it was the very first live performance.
Did he play by himself or did I accompany him?
Well, we're going to hear it.
I can't remember.
And you can remember because it's historic. This is the very first live performance on the David Uosikkinen In the Pocket. It was episode 5. Taylor, you got it ready to go? This little medley from Steve Butler from Smash Palace.
Steve sounds great. I did a little bit Petty. Right as rain.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Right as rain. Yeah. Comes out. Right as rain. Yeah. And he sounds great. In town. Steve sounds great. That was cool. Yeah, that was it. That
was the first time. And after that, we said, okay, well, now anybody who comes in the studio, bring a guitar.
I know.
That was great. Steve Butler.
Time flowed by too when you get instruments in the studio, and an hour, a little over an hour will fly by. It just zips through, and then you never know what's going to happen.
Right. Well, and we're going to hear a few of those. You never know moments coming up.
Teaching moments and things.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah. Hey, so you're obviously a drummer. You've been drumming since you were what, 8 years old?
When did I start? I think I was 11.
Okay.
I don't know why that number comes, but I was 11 because 67, and I think I got a because I played trumpet first in 2nd grade. That was my first instrument, and I wish I would have kept it up because now I listen to Chet Baker and stuff but other great trumpet players. But that was my first instrument, and I always wanted to play the drums. And so I got a snare drum because a buddy of mine could play guitar in the neighborhood. Wayne Myers, he played the...
There's that famous picture that floats around Facebook. Right. It shows up on Throwback
Thursday. Socks and the
you're on the deck, and and you got the little drums.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The patio, the Levittown patio. And, but yeah, I thought I was about 11 years old. And so, I don't know, I immediately loved it, but I never thought, here I am going on 64, and it's all... I mean, I've had some other... music-related jobs, I guess, working with record companies and stuff like that, but it's what my life has been literally since I'm 11 years old, playing drums.
I bring up the fact that you're a drummer and the drums because we've had, I've counted 9 drummers on this show.
No kidding.
I'm going to throw them out there, and just the first thing that comes to your mind. The first drummer we had on the show, episode 15, we started with a bang. Liberty DeVito was our first drummer on the show. Billy Joel's longtime drummer. He called in. How great was it for you to have Liberty on the show?
Oh, man, because I just, not only is he an amazing drummer, just an amazing person, he's helped me just as a drummer, watching him play drums, and I told you the experience where I saw him and his wife at the time, Mary, in a store, and I couldn't even talk to him. I was just so blown away because I saw him the night before playing at the Spectrum, and I was amazed that he was walking because of how physical he played, and he ended up becoming a great friend. We traveled to Japan together. He was playing with Billy. The Hooters were playing over there, and we hung out. And he gave me some great advice on life, and he's been a friend ever since. And when I asked him, he said, "Dave, let me know, man. I'll be on the show." You know, on the podcast, he was cool.
He was great, and that
was great.
Getting a name like that. I mean, we focus on Philly music here, but getting a national guy that had been all over the world and played some of the biggest arenas and stadiums in Russia. You know,
he played in Philly a lot, though, man. I mean, Billy Joel was, you know, it was this kind of like Bruce territory, Billy Joel territory. They loved him here, you know. So Liberty was here a lot.
All right. Some of the other drummers we had on the show. This one we had right in studio. Another Bucks County guy, the great Jeff Simon from George Thorogood.
Yeah, Jeff and
episode 18, Jeff Simon. I think that was a week we needed a guest at the last minute, and we called Jeff, and Jeff said sure, and he came in.
Such a chill guy, and he, you know, and I'm always blown away by the like he's been playing with George probably as long as I've been playing with the Hooters.
Longer.
Right?
Longer. Jeff's been playing with George since like 1974.
Oh, okay. So
I came up with the stat. No one's disproved it. As far as American drummers, like American bands, obviously Charlie Watts takes it, but British. From American bands, I think the only guy that's been with the same band longer than Jeff's been with the Destroyers is Frank Beard and ZZ Top.
Wow.
So, and there might be somebody else.
And they're kind of like, I know Frank, I haven't seen Frank in ages, but they're both the same kind of personality, and they play similar kind of music. Both in three-piece. Well, is George a three-piece band right now?
No,
but
George has a brand.
They were a
three-piece band.
But Jeff, like, I just admire him so much. I grew up with his wife, Carol. We grew up in Mill Creek Falls, and I admire the guy. You know, just longevity and staying power in the place that he does. You know, you get up on stage and you play that show, night in, night out when you're on tour. He's just an ultimate pro. He's a pro guy.
Yeah, I just thought it was cool. When I was a kid, two of the first bands I got into as I'm getting into rock and roll were the Destroyers and the Hooters. Oh. And the first time I got to meet both you and Jeff, you know, local Bucks County guys, I got to write about you. I thought, this is pretty cool. Two of my favorite bands, and it turns out two of my favorite people, too.
Oh, that's nice.
So Jeff Simon.
Nice.
Next drummer we had on as a friend of yours, episode 27, was Rich Redmond.
Rich, he's becoming one of the go-to guys in country music. You know, Jason Aldean's drummer, and he's not only he's got his own podcast right now too, which I just saw the other day. He's looking for subscribers, and he's doing that. Plug for you, Rich, and he's doing touring, and he's also an actor, and he's got an interesting career, man.
We have men of many talents on this show.
Good guy, really good guy. I was glad that he came. He called in. Right. I think he was called in from L.A. He was living in L.A. Which I have, you know, I lived out in Southern California for a long time myself too, so I kind of identified with what he was doing, you know, because I went out and I didn't imagine it would be 20 plus years, but I was out there over 20 plus years, and he goes back and forth Nashville and LA doing his thing, so it's cool.
Really talented guy. Yeah. And then episode 31, a very close friend of yours. I know you just had lunch with him yesterday. Freddie Berman, Freddie
Rojo. Matter of fact, he sent me, he's been writing songs with David Cope. He sent me something that was just really lights out good. And I was talking to Charlie about it this morning, you know. We've been listening to lots of songs, and we loved it. And Fred's a good friend. We have this little meetup on Wednesdays when we can, and when we're free to do it. We meet up, and another drummer friend of mine who joined us later joined us yesterday. Gordon Townsend. Yeah. And so we talk about how our asses hurt. And but sometimes the conversation.
That's a whole other topic. What are the biggest ailments for drummers? I never thought of that one.
Well, I had
to think of the knees and hips and
Well,
arms.
I had to have a hip replacement because, and mine was my left. You know, I was always kind of bouncing around on that hip, and I never realized the damage it would do to it. But you know, Fred and I always talk about hearing aids, and he's had issues with his shoulders and his body. You know, you got to take care of yourself, which I didn't always do when I was younger. Nowadays I swim, and we talk about. You know, we have, he eats good. I was like, when I'm eating an omelet, a cheese omelet, or eggs over easy, he's getting soup, and, you know, I think he's a little bit more conscientious than I am, stuff like that.
Well, you got to enjoy life, Dave.
I'm living life, and I'm enjoying it. And Fred does too.
Okay. And we'll just real quick run through these. One of two rock and roll members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame we've had on the show, and this guy actually came into the studio up from North Jersey Vinny Mad Dog Lopez from Bruce Springsteen's original E Street Band sat in episode 37. Sat right here. Vinny was great. The stories he told about the old days with Bruce and Clarence. Yeah.
I was blown away that, you know, anybody that's a part of that E Street Band history, and especially Vinny, is you know, he's a legend. Just the stories alone, and you know, it was great getting the real insight, like you know.
And the sweetest guy, Mad Dog, right? Mad Dog, he's like the sweetest guy in the world.
And he still is, you know. He checks in for social media. He's just one of the nicest human beings, and hell of a golfer. And he still does the light of day thing with some of my friends, and he's cool.
He still gets out and plays. Yeah. And he played on maybe my all-time favorite album, Wild Unison, E Street Shuffle. Episode 40, another Philly guy who made it big, Johnny D.
Johnny D, who's just became a father, and he's, I think he's in Russia, St. Petersburg. Is that it, right?
Yeah, I forget.
Until he plays in Russia right now. I don't know if I named the city correctly, but I just saw on Facebook or one of the social media sites that he was going over there. Great story. I love hearing how.
Yeah, we can't play the highlight because it's too long.
Yeah.
But one of the top 5 moments on this show was when he told the story of how he got involved. You know, how he hooked up with with these guys in Britain and you know, basically kickstarted his career. And what a storyteller! What a great guy! That was a fun episode.
Totally fun. And you know, he has that never say die attitude that like I'm gonna get it done no matter what. True. Drummer Philly guy.
Right, Brittany Fox, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Great. When we're done here, any of these episodes, you know, kind of get you going. You want to go back and listen to them. They're all on in-the-pocket.simplecast.com.
Indeed, yeah.
One of your all-time favorite drummers and one of the guys you helped train and get him started. Episode 41, he called in, Ilan Rubin.
Oh, my God.
What a talent he is.
And he just, the new regime, I saw a promo I saw it on Instagram, and it sounds amazing. He's